BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. On today's show, I am once again joined by Alphonse Faggiolo. I will include links down below and above for his first appearance, and I definitely encourage you to check that one out, but it's not required to watch this second conversation. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. Plus, you can find my social media links, contact information, get Rice TVX merch coming soon via the shop, and more. If this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, check out and explore my channels. Make sure you subscribe to Rice TVX and Rice TVX2, both can be found on YouTube, and hit the notification bell to get alerted to new videos. Also, you can follow me on Odyssey and Library, where I have my full catalog of videos plus extra content. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. If you want to support Rice TVX and what I do directly, I have my PayPal, Cash App, plus my cryptocurrency addresses via my Cointree link below in the video description. You can also join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to some of my videos, exclusive content, and more, with 4 different levels of membership, all offering something different. If you are looking to purchase and invest in precious metals, gold and silver are both good safe haven assets to hedge against the financial collapse we are experiencing. Check out Money Metals Exchange. I partnered up with them and you can get a free ½ ounce of silver. Visit moneymetals.com, be a first-time buyer, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE. You get a free ½ ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel. I will include links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything I talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's show is a returning guest. This is Alphonse Faggiolo. I'm going to have links down below and above for his first appearance. If you haven't watched that, make sure you check that one out. But Alphonse, I appreciate you coming back on the show today. Welcome back to Rice TVX. How are you?
Hey, good to talk to you again, Chris.
I'm definitely looking forward to the conversation, and we had a chance to catch up a little bit before we started recording. It's been about 8.5 months. I didn't realize it was so long since I've had you back on the show. So it was March 26th of 2021 that we released the first interview. And again, that's going to be linked down below, and I will create a playlist since we have interview number 2 going on. And hopefully I can get you back on sooner than later and not go 8.5 months before the next conversation.
I don't know what it is about time with this age. Time just sort of goes like this now. It's just boom, 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 you know?
It does. It does. And I mean, it does. I've noticed that the older you get, the shorter time seems to be.
Yeah.
And then I also have to add in the cryptocurrency space, because the space moves so fast. It's like we talk about dog years compared to human years. The crypto space just moves so fast. So just the combination of that space moving and me gaining age and less time, it just seems like everything flies by, and it sometimes 2 days go by and it feels like it's been a few weeks.
Have you ever lost them days where you think you're in Friday and it's actually Saturday? You know, I've had some of them. Okay.
Yeah. Especially when you get deep in some research, man.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of the things that you do a lot of, and I really appreciate what you do. If people are unfamiliar with you, you do have a YouTube channel that's going to be linked down below, and you also have your website, which is iamhassentmetoyou.com. And all you would need to do is log in, set up an account on the website, and all of Alphonse's documentation is available for free. We talked about that on the first interview we did together, where you made a pact with Creator Source God and decided that you would not charge for this kind of information, that you would just make it readily available because you don't have the time to individually help people. So you try to give them all the tools that they would need to help themselves. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, definitely. And the website, listen, let people know when you register there, you're not going to get a confirmation email. I sort of have the site locked at a certain right here because there's a lot of stuff on the site's a year or 2 years old. And a lot of stuff, if I had to do over again, I would totally rewrite and redo. So I would tell people, register on the site because your email is going to go in there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically rework that site. That site's going to be totally reworked to more a functional thing where if you have a property tax issue, you'll be able to go to a property tax section and learn step by step, how do you go after to get rid of property taxes? Here's what you do. So it's going to be more of a application centric site than it is going to be about chats, and talking about things.
Well, what I will say about that real quick is, like before we started recording, you had mentioned, because obviously you got new camera, new microphone, everything looks really great. Not saying that your past setup wasn't good, but you were telling me that you didn't have any intention of doing interviews, and I don't feel like you had any idea how many visitors you were going to get to your website and how many people would find the information useful. So to see this growth in you, I love it, man. I love that you're stepping up your game, trying to make things easier for people and just trying to, put out better quality content.
It's funny, when I set up the website, the main purpose I set that website up was because when I did the Crow interviews, I would get barraged by document requests.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, you start to get weary doing that. You're sending separate emails out, So I said, let me automate this so that people could just go get some documents, And I'm thinking maybe, hey, maybe a couple hundred people go there, download documents. Last I checked, it's over 26,000 people registered on the website.
That is crazy. And
I can't imagine how
right. That doesn't include all the people who just go there and decide not to register.
Yeah, that and I can't believe how many times them documents have been pulled down. And like I said, a lot of them documents are a year or two old. And not that there's anything wrong with them, but it's like anything. You do something long enough, you get better at it and you learn more stuff.
Right.
And so something that you did in like 10 pages, you might have down to 2 pages now because you're hitting the core issues. Doesn't matter what the other stuff says. You take a lot of the fluff out of it, And when you do that, it looks a lot more professional. When you're dealing with people and you're submitting legal documents to them, they know they're dealing with somebody substantial in a way that you're hitting the core issues. You're not on some random tangents over here. You're hitting A, B, C, and D, and they know they're dealing with somebody that understands what's going on. So so I set that up, and that's what it took off, which stunned me. And then I had another one, the girl I was helping on Crow. She emailed me and told me they were talking about me on some application called Telegram. I know no idea what Telegram was. Okay. So who's talking about me? Was it bad? Was it good? She gave me the group. So I said, all right. So I registered an account. It's under my name. I just wanted to see what people were saying, So I set this group up and not to have a group, basically, to go promote the group. There's like 12,500 people in the Telegram group right now.
12,760.
Is that what it is? I missed count.
I got it pulled up here. And it's good that we're kind of talking about the Telegram.
Wait, let me say this real quick because you referenced the site. Most of the key documents, because people want to sign up on the site for the documents, the key documents are on the Telegram site in the file section. So anything that I would want to give you from the site is already on the Telegram site in the file section. And actually, they're better because a lot of the stuff I've filed, recent motions I've filed, recent criminal complaints I've filed, some Steve Emerson documents that he provided me that I put up there, that he gave me permission to put up for people. So anything I would refer to somebody, instead of giving them something from the site, I would refer them to the Telegram group. So don't worry if you can't sign up for the site. The documents that you need are on that Telegram group in the file section.
And that'll be linked down below as well. And I will talk with you a little bit after Christmas about trying to get you some help, man. Maybe someone helped to organize some of these files that you got on Telegram onto the new version of the website. So I'm going to be trying to hire some people to help me out. Not all those positions are going to be full time, so maybe I can find someone that could work potentially with both of us and help out.
Well, see, I live in this fantasy world, Chris. Here's my fantasy, okay? That I'm going to actually have some time at a certain point to catch up on this stuff and organize it. And this is not what happens because, lo and behold, your buddy's getting citations for parking his Corvette on his lawn, okay? And they want to fine him $400-something for this junk, okay? So now I'm like, all right, I got to address this. That's my buddy Carmen. I got to take care of him, you know. So now I'm going after two judges. You know, I got one judge, I got her sort of in trouble, and now I'm going after another judge. And then you get like the other friend that they're trying to extort $28,000 from this old woman, you know. And I'm sorry, certain things I hear and I go, I have no time to do this, but I can't let this go. I can't let this shyster attorney come in and extort money from this woman for doing absolutely nothing, taking advantage of her because she don't know any better, you know. So you get involved in that, and you always think, it's going to take a couple days. I'll do some documents, and 2 weeks later, you know, you're still working on that same document. So this has been my life as far as that goes. So my hope was that after my stuff is done, my big stuff, I'm going after the property tax people. That's going to be epic. They're going to lose. I know they're going to lose already. But once I get that settled, my life should sort of ease to a certain point, because once that suit's settled, I'm not going to hear from anybody in my county. Nobody's going to bother me anymore. So then I'll have some time to do some things.
When are you planning on doing this, what you're talking about in regards to property taxes? Are you in the process of, or are you getting ready to start?
No, it's already written. The suit's written, and I was hoping to get it out by the end of December, and it will be January at the latest. I will have that suit out by January. It's written. I got to go in there and do some updates, because during the time of waiting, I've done some further record requests, and it's amazing what these people will tell you when you do record requests, or what they will claim. And I asked for the most basic things. Listen, I know the property tax king. He's like a buddy of mine, Steve Emerson, and Steve's taught me a lot with this stuff. So he taught me to read the tax code, the PA tax code. So I went in and read it. And you find the main section that in order to do property taxes, a return must be filed on the property. Well, Chris, you don't file a return on your property, and I don't file returns on my property. And unless you're a business, you don't file returns on your property. So I went and did a record request. Please provide me the return and the signed assessment. You know, where are these assessments at? And they wrote back. And I cited the actual PA tax code off the top of my head. I think it's Title 724843.1. And your people can go look that up and go reference that back to their state, because your state should have something very similar to that, because that's the return that must be filed in order for them to ascertain the amount of the assessment. No return, no assessment. So when I sent in asking for this non-existent return that I know they didn't have, they said, we don't use that code no more. Well, thank you very much. You just told me you don't use the Pennsylvania tax code. Thank you very much. You know, I can't wait to hear this in a federal pleading, when how you created your own system. Because if it's not written in black letter law, that's called simulation of legal process. If that process is not written down for them to execute, and they're making it up, which they're doing, that's called simulation of law. And it's called fraud. Okay. And it's many other things like that: forgery, you know, execution of documents by deception. There's a million crimes that are attached to what they're doing. So from doing those record requests, I got some really humdingers from them like that, telling me, you know, and I also have them telling me, the records coordinator that answers for the county, telling me that they use this one process. She explains that, you know, we're using this. I said, great. And I went in there and read it, you know, because we don't read things, Chris. People don't read stuff. This is our problem.
Not when it comes to like terms and conditions and things like that. No, the fine line, the fine print.
We got to learn how to read. Basically, we got to go back to reading. So I went in and read this stuff, and I said, great, you told me to use this process. Now provide me these documents you're supposed to have according to this process. And then another attorney got involved at that point, because I knew it wasn't the record coordinator, and they said, oh, no. We don't use that process. We're using this process. Wait a minute, you told me to use this. So now what's that pointing to? Improper training? Basically, I got a records coordinator. She don't know what process they're using. She's getting information from the property assessment people. Dude, she's not telling me this on her own. She's not sitting there going, we'll use this process, that process. When that record request goes in, she goes back to the county assessor and says, explain to me what you guys are using. And they are very elementary with her, and they'll say, we're using this, we're using that. So she reports back to me that stuff in the record request, okay? Not knowing that when you actually read it and you find out and you ask for those things you're supposed to have, she don't have them. So now when I get attorneys telling me that, you know, they're using one process, but then they're using this other process, well, now we could also point to not only fraud, we could point to improper training because these people don't know what they're doing. The records coordinator doesn't know what they're doing. The assessment people that told her what to do, they don't know what they're doing. And obviously, the attorneys don't know what they're doing. And when you start putting stuff together like this, well, now I got to update my suit because I got to make reference that, hey, listen, I did a record request on these dates, and I asked for these documents that you're supposed to have pursuant to law, and they didn't have the documents. Because they didn't have the documents, that led me to believe that they're falsifying the tax rolls. And this was what your entry into federal district court is for the property tax stuff is, hey, here's the process, the Pennsylvania Code tax process for property taxes. You guys aren't following it. Come answer and explain why you're not following that tax code. And that's where the whole thing falls apart. And I think we will drive them to the settlement table early. This won't go to trial. This will be a call him up after week 5 or 6 and see what the hell he wants and make him go away. Okay.
When they were talking about not recognizing that code that you had mentioned, are they talking about that particular section, or do they have to define that, or are they talking about the entirety of it?
Well, here's the funny part. When you read that section of code, that 72, 48, 43.1, it's about the return, that a return must be filed in order to ascertain the amount of the assessment. And in there, it will state that code, basically, that code's tied to all of Title 72. So without that return, that code, nothing else in 72 applies, okay? So if you're not using that, how did you get, in other words, how are you at point B when you never walk through point A?
Right.
Yeah, I go through A to get to B. And this is how you beat these people with this stuff. It's done through basically common sense and logic a lot of times. Hey, you're telling me you just baked an apple pie, but you don't have any apples, okay? So how do you have an apple pie? But they'll tell you they got this apple pie and it smells great, this apple pie, and they want to serve you a piece. But you know they don't have no apples. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. They don't have what they're telling you they have. And when you could word that in a pleading, in a court pleading, and you could prove it, it makes a lot of uncomfortable situations for them when that lawsuit gets filed. You know,
when you mention that, how important is it for somebody who's taking the position that you're taking, where they have to understand the definitions of words that the legal world uses, the legalese language? Because if people go in using our everyday language trying to defend themselves, words may have a different meaning in the court of law, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, to a certain degree. Listen, a lot of times when you're reading statutes and they're talking about persons, they're not talking about you and me. They're talking about, and if you actually go find the definitions in those statutes or legislation that's tied to those statutes, they will actually state that a person is, it's a corporation. It's a trust, a corporation. And what throws people off is the first thing you'll usually see in the definition of person is individual. Okay. Now, when you hear individual, a lot of people, you may think that must mean me. I must be an individual. But then when you look up, we're talking about definitions. You look up the definition of individual. Guess what an individual is?
What does it mean?
It's a single person.
Sense.
It's one person. Okay. So if you work for McDonald's, okay, McDonald's, if I sued, let's go with the county, something with the county. When I sue the county of Delaware, okay, they're a political subdivision of the state. That's what they're considered. Technically, they're a political subdivision of the state. In law, they're considered a person, okay? But that county has many persons working for them. They got treasurers, they got tax assessors, they got assessment guys. So there's many persons working for that one person, okay? So that's a person, that corporation, County of Delaware. But if I'm Joe Blow and I have a house painting business, okay, and I got a license with the state to be a house painter, I registered my business with the state, and I got nobody working for me. I'm just me.
Okay.
I'm an individual because I'm still a person by law because I have a registration with the state. I have a registered business with the state. So I'm a person. I fall under the category. I'm a legal entity. When I register my business with the state, I become a legal entity at that point, okay? That business is a legal entity. But I'm an individual. I'm one. I don't have many people working for me. So that term throws a lot of people off when they see individual. And then they'll see, what the definition of a person is, a trust and some other, corporation. And they'll give you all these other legal terms, legal entity terms. So a lot of people get thrown off here talking about definitions. So you got to learn how to read things and put them in context. Don't just assume because it said individual, it meant you. Go read the definition of what an individual is. And it will state, Black's Law will, and I think Bouvier's dictionary will do the same. It'll state that a individual is a person, a single person. Well, we just talked about what a person is. It's a legal entity that could sue or be sued. That's what a person technically is. It's a legal entity that can sue or be sued. So don't assume because you see individual that doesn't mean person in the sense of a business, in context of a business, not in context of a man or woman.
Context is very important, because that's one thing I did talk to some attorneys about, that I was kind of getting a uniform answer, is that it's not necessarily that the court has a set definition of words. It's all in context as to what you're saying. Because I know legally, I've learned from watching Justinian Deception, the word goat means a sewer, like water sewer. But I'm sure that if you were going into court and you were making a complaint against a neighbor because their goat was destroying your fence, they're not going to think that it has anything to do with a sewer, because you're using the word goat in a court of law. So therefore, it has to be the legal definition, which is a sewer and not an animal.
Yeah, let's dispel some of that too. A lot of that falls into patriot mythology. And this is one of the things that drives me crazy with people, is they think that a definition or a term is going to trap them. Okay, and that's not how real law works. Okay, because for a law to be real, a actual real law, whether it's a statute or a law, whatever, it has to be clear language, clear English language. So that if we're talking about a common term, it's got to mean the common definition of the term, not some hidden legalese term. Okay, they can't do that. They're not allowed to do that. It's under the rules of statutory construction that the statute must tell who's obligated to do what and what they're obligated to do. And it's got to be done in clear language so that the average dummy like me can read it and understand it.
Right.
If I can't understand it, it's not a law. Listen, if you're reading something and you're lost after the first paragraph because it's all this legalese jumbo, it wasn't written for you. It was never written for you. That's written for the lawyers that are supposed to handle that, not you and me. I need to read the real basic stuff. Like if you go read your state constitution, that's pretty basic stuff in there. Right to trial by jury is inviolate, permanent. Gee, I cannot, even a dummy like me can understand that. I don't need a lawyer to tell me that. But if I'm reading a statute and they're talking about all this crazy stuff in there that really doesn't sound like anything you and I do, I don't think that's written for me, okay? So words don't trap you. And case in point, I like my buddy Steve's analogy where he says, listen, a guy can volunteer to have a baby all he wants. He ain't having no baby. Okay? So they could call you a taxpayer all they want, but you ain't no taxpayer. You know why you're not a taxpayer? Not because you say I'm the free man on the land, I'm the living man, I'm this, I'm that. No. Go read the definition of who files taxes. We just talked about this. What do taxpayers do, Chris? What do they file with the county? Taxpayer. They file returns. Right. I don't file returns with the county. Okay. I never filed a return in my life with the county on anything but my property. And it states further in that statute, that 4843.1, that if you don't file that return, you could be fined $500 or sent to jail for 6 months. Well, I've never been fined $500 for not filing a return, and I've never done jail time for not filing a return. So, gee, I never filed the return. I never did the fine. I never went to jail. Don't look like I meet the elements of taxpayer, does it, Chris? I don't think I meet the elements here. So I can't volunteer to be a taxpayer if I wanted to. Why? Because I don't file returns with the county. Regardless of what they call me in their records, they could call me taxpayer. They could call my property taxable. It don't matter. When we get down to the brass tactics of it, when it actually gets put in a pleading and argued against them, how are they going to explain how this Pennsylvania tax code states in order to ascertain the amount of assessment, you need to return? How do they explain they don't have no return, but they came up with some assessment on my property? And that's a whole nother thing real quick let's talk about. Chris, do you have a right to own property?
Supposed to.
It's right in your state constitution, okay?
Right.
You have a right. You'll find mostly it'll state it like this way. It'll state that you have a right to acquire, possess, and protect property. Pretty clear there, right? Mm-hmm. Acquire, possess, and protect property. And further, when you read in that state constitution, and it actually goes into the criminal stuff where the government can't take property without due process. Due process means a notice and opportunity to be heard, usually in a judicial setting, in a court proceeding, okay? But that's not what these people do. That's not what these counties do. They're violating that. So you have a right to own property. So let me ask you this. If you have a right to own property, can they tax your rights? Can they tax your right to free speech?
Not technically, no.
Can they tax your right to own property?
Not technically, no, but we people fall into this trap of doing it, because that's what I was going to ask you. Is if you take what you're saying from a local level to a federal level, and we have the IRS, which is an entity created for taxpayers.
Works there too. We've knocked stuff out to the IRS too. Yeah, we've knocked a lot of stuff out with the IRS. Works there too.
That's one thing that I've been trying to find definitively, because there are several different agents who stopped working for the IRS and trying to come out publicly against, saying that there is no law stating that you have to pay taxes, that it's all voluntary. But I don't see anybody, from my point of view and from my perspective in my research, anybody getting off because they're saying that it's not a law.
I know people that are not paying income taxes and don't pay property taxes, and nobody comes near them. They're afraid to come near them. I know a guy where the code inspector for his county, they won't come within a 3-block radius of his property, because they all know my buddy. And when they step foot in the area, they turn around and sue them right away. They'll go sue the code guy right away. And they're going to wind up the county or it's the local borough, whoever the code inspector is working for. They're going to have to reach in their pocket and pay the settlement, because that code guy had no authority to be messing with anything on your property. Okay? They don't have authority to do anything on your property. I think before we were just talking, before I came on, I was talking about my buddy Carmen, where he parked his Corvette on his lawn. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they're writing citations against him. That's his property. Carmen could park a jet on his property. If he could fit it on there, he could park a jet on his property. They couldn't do a damn thing about it, okay? It's not their property. They can't impose their ordinances and their codes on us.
How does a homeowners association work, though, in that fact?
Well, funny you should mention that, because I just talked to you right before I came on about a homeowners association that I'm dealing with for somebody, okay? And I got a friend that's also...
Don't you sign an agreement to be a part of this neighborhood and abide by all the different requirements for each house?
Well, you would think so, but guess what? A lot of times they don't have it. And this one attorney who I'm going to basically hang by her neck legally is she actually stated in a pleading that there was a covenant. Well, you go read what a covenant is, legal definition of a covenant. Talk about the terms, right? Legal definitions. Go read Bouvier's or Black's Law, what a covenant is. It's a signed, sealed, and delivered document. It's almost a contract, okay? So they don't have no covenant, the homeowners association, with this woman. They can't produce no covenant. They can produce a lot of rhetoric, okay? They can point to things all they want, but they don't have no covenant. So that's one of the things, funny you should mention that, because I just got a document from my buddy who's also dealing with this homeowners association where he's at for somebody. He's helping out. And it's like, you will talk about spooky stuff. I told you about this woman. She's an older woman. She's about 75. They're trying to get $28,000 from her. This woman did nothing. Okay. There's nothing she did. Her daughter was walking a dog through a common area. The dog didn't bite nobody, didn't do nothing. He just wasn't in a wagon. They want the dog in a wagon for some reason. Even though the dog can jump out of the wagon, he's got to be in the wagon. And because the dog wasn't in a wagon, they started piling up all these fines on her, to the point where they got him at $28,000. I said, okay, this is a little ridiculous here. And I went through her pleadings and I looked, and she's got all kinds of, I would call it perjury, because she's making statements that she has to know are false, or statements she should have never made in a pleading without knowing she could walk in there and prove it with evidence. So I'm going to basically hang her words around her neck and ask her to produce this covenant that she stated she had, because evidently that's the source of this HOA's power, from this covenant, and they don't have any covenant. Because the woman that bought the property, she didn't sign no document saying that she gives them almighty power to do whatever they want. And these HOA organizations are out of line. They're out of control. Listen, these HOA organizations, here's what they're tasked to do. Take care of the common areas. Cut the grass. Paint the building, okay? Do the basic stuff, the upkeep, okay? Clean. And it's funny, this one HOA, it was revealed to me today that there's somewhat of a mouse problem in there. So wait a minute. They're more concerned with this woman not having her dog in a wagon instead of cleaning up the rodent problem they have there. I got a problem with that. And
so
here's the crazy part, Chris. Here's the crazy part. Today I filed to open up that case because the clerk made a judgment. Clerks can't make judgments in the case. The clerk filed a default judgment against this woman for $28,000. So I filed a document in there. It's a precipice, basically a request, a petition to open up the case. In other words, let's start this case again. This thing should have never been closed by the clerks. You don't have the authority to close the case. They walk in today. I can't go represent her. They're not going to let me in to represent her. So I had to get an attorney. The girl I'm working with, she got an attorney to go in there and basically litigate the paper that I wrote, just to get the case open. That was the only time for the hearing to open it up. So during this process, that I was going on today, I kid you not, my buddy from Florida, Steve, he sends me the HOA document that he just used. I think he just used it because he told me he was dealing with an HOA matter. What's the timing of that? Where the day I'm trying to get this matter opened up, I get an HOA document that he's using, and I go, "Ooh, this is good. I can take what he wrote, and I can add some stuff in there that she wrote. Oh, this is going to be good." And then the attorney at that hearing turns around and states to the attorney we hired, she's willing to waive all the fines she wanted to waive, if that woman would pay for the legal fees, which he was asking for like $11,000. So now the attorney thought that was a good deal. I look at it this way. I'm too much of a, I'm like my cousin Vinny. It's got to make sense to me for this stuff, So I go, wait a minute. If the fines were so fraudulent and so frivolous that they're willing to waive them in a blink of an eye, why did they have to go to a law firm to file a lawsuit to collect these fees? Why should that be that woman's responsibility to pay for their legal fees when they were chasing debts that they're calling debts? Here's the funny thing. Every bill, there's not a name on any bill, and nobody signed any one of those bills. So they must have made, I'm not kidding you, it's got to be like 30-something fines that they have on this woman. And they put the legal fees on top of that, and they got it up to 28 grand. So if they're willing to waive all those fines, that quickly she was, why should my woman there pay for their expenses? Let the homeowners association pay for that. They should have never brought the case in the first place. Okay. So if I was there, my deal to her would have been, hey, listen, here's my deal to you. 0. You're going to get 0. You're going to like it. And you're going to drop everything here instantly, because if you don't, I'm going to file bar grievance against you. I'm going to file state criminal complaints against you. Okay. I'm going to wreak havoc with your insurance by the time I'm done with you. And just not me going to file the bar grievance against you. I'm going to get other people to witness what you did. They're each going to be trickling bar grievances in on you every 2 weeks. So that by the time we hit another month or 2 months, you're going to be up to here with your insurance company asking you what the heck's going on in this matter. You got bar grievances coming in against you left and right. And that's only the start. Because now I'm going to bring you in federal district court, and I'm going to sue the heck out of you. And I'm going to bring you in and let you explain how this woman who didn't put her dog in a wagon somehow has to pay you $28,000 when there's been no property damage and no person's been harmed or damaged here. I need you to explain that to the jury there, because I don't think a jury full of people are going to look and see this 75-year-old woman getting railroaded by this law firm. I don't think it's going to go too well for them. And I don't think they're going to want to go into court and argue this matter with us. So I think the pleading I write up, which is down the line coming, when I get this fictitious time that pops up, like I told you, when I get this, this time, when I write this pleading, I think we're going to drive near the early settlement table, and she's going to get a settlement in this case to make it go away. Because it's either that or your insurance is going to take a hell of a bang, and you may lose your license by the time I'm done with you. Because even though when I file in federal district court, it's a Title 42, Section 1983 suit. That's a civil suit, okay? It's not a criminal suit. We can't file criminal charges that way. We can file criminal charges, but then they have to act on them. We don't have the power to file criminal against somebody and bring it before a court.
Okay.
You got the DA and everybody has to do that. So even though I file that civil suit, in that civil suit, we ask for damages.
Hold on 1 second.
Damage.
Your internet was lagging.
Is it cut out?
It just did for a second.
Sure.
Can you start over?
Sure. So even though this is a civil suit we're filing, and it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil suit, we're asking for money damages, and they're going to be substantial money damage that we're asking for. in that civil suit, I learned these little tricks off my buddy Steve, okay, that I'm going to ask for an injunction against these people to leave this woman alone. Stop bothering this woman. That's an injunction that's going to go in there. And oh, by the way, here's all the state crimes and the federal crimes that these people committed. And oh, court judges over here, can I request the impanelment of a grand jury to look at all the state and federal crimes that these people committed? So now we're not only dealing with a civil matter where we want substantial damages, now people could go to jail, okay? People could lose their freedom for this, or they could lose their job. Because the insurance company might look at this suit that started at $28,000, that now we're coming at them for 1.5, 1.6 million we want. That insurance company might look at that and go, we're going to drop your insurance to the attorney. Now the attorney's got a problem. She can't be an attorney no more. So when you move against them like this, you have a way of driving them to the settlement table. Because do they want to face potential criminal matter? They're going to lose the civil case because ain't no way they're going to explain how the dog wasn't in a wagon. And, you know, that's the only difference. The dog was not in a wagon that he can jump out of, okay? And this one's got to pay $28,000 because the dog wasn't in a wagon. That ain't going to fly to the jury. It's not going to fly with the judge, okay? So now do they want to go through that and lose that? And then we deal with the criminal matters, what these people are doing. This is extortion. This is coercion. There's a million crime. Execution of documents by deception, deceptive and fraudulent business practices, forgery. There's a million things I could take this way, state and federal crimes. They don't want to deal with that because they know they're going to get banged on the civil suit. Now we got to deal with the criminal stuff. They may bring a grand jury in to look at this. And the good thing is they're not a government entity, the condo association. So it's not like the federal government's looking to protect somebody. They don't care about the condo association. They got no horse in that race, okay?
Right.
Maybe they make an example out of this condo association, and maybe they impanel a grand jury. Not that I think that's going to happen, but it's more likely to happen in that kind of case than it is in going after a government entity like a county, okay?
So let me ask you this about the HOAs though, because are you saying some people are being forced into an HOA because they bought a home that the previous owners signed an HOA and they never signed it?
Well, listen, if you read there's HOA laws in each state, and you can go read them what they are,
Okay.
you know, and they're ambiguous to a certain point. They make it sound like the condo association can make these rules and do all these rules. But when you go read actual case law, people that had problems with condo associations and sued them, the courts have made it pretty clear that the condo association's rules and all, they have to act within reason, okay? Like they couldn't make a rule that, hey, listen, only sterilized people can live here at the condo. You know, we don't want any, offspring, so everybody's got to be sterilized. No, they've got to do things within context, within reason, okay? And we know that a condo association's main responsibility is to take care of the common areas. If you got a swimming pool, make sure the pool's cleaned, okay? Make sure the cement work's done properly, Make sure the trash is taken out. Make sure the place is painted properly, that the grass is cut, that there's adequate lighting for people so people are not tripping and falling. These are things condo associations are tasked with. And that's fine to charge you fees for that because, hey, if they hire a security firm to patrol the place, but no, basically, they're supposed to be doing things. The rules have to be within reason. They can't do unreasonable things. Now, to me, listen, I'm a simple guy. I'm my cousin Vinny. I'm a simple guy here. Listen, let me get this straight. If the dog's in a wagon, he can go through the common area. But they actually testified in the little hearing they had here. They were asked, "Take the dog out of the wagon." Well, yes. Well, then how does that make somebody safe? If the dog can jump out of the wagon, I would think you're more safe having a dog on a leash, having control of a dog on a leash. Because if I got the dog in a wagon and I'm holding the leash and he jumps out, now we got a mess. The wagon's going to go over. I'm probably going over the wagon. This is a mess you're going to create here. So to me, that's an unreasonable claim that because the dog's not in a wagon, I got to be charged $28,000 because you called it a rule and she violated one of your rules. I'm sorry. At a certain point, when you get that before a jury or you put that in paper properly, it looks ridiculous on paper, and it looks even more ridiculous to try and argue before a jury full of people that are going to look at this and go, wait a minute. If the dog's in a wagon, he's good, but he can jump out. So if he's not in a wagon, you got to pay $28,000. Most people are going to look at that and go, this looks like a law firm that's extorting money from an old woman because they can. And they probably did this numerous times. And I will go up on the Delaware County Court website and I will go look up previous cases that they were involved in to see what other nefarious things this law firm was involved in. So that I can sort of leverage them with that. Hey, and I do that in bar grievances and criminal complaints. I say, hey, they were cited back here in this case. And look, they're doing the same thing over again. Because a lot of them do that. They will redo their crimes or whatever they were told not to do before. They will continue on doing. So when you can stick this stuff in their face like that, they sort of figure out that this is not the average monkey. And not that I'm any smarter than you or anybody else. It's just that I got thrown into the mud with the pigs because I got forced into something, a sewer authority case that I didn't want to be involved in. And it forced me to learn how they're doing things, how this actually works and what they're doing. And certain things, like I was an athlete all my life. I was actually a very good athlete. And the reason I was a good athlete because I practiced. When I would go out back and shoot basketball for 3 hours by myself just to make myself better. I'm like that with this stuff. I get a challenge that I don't care that this guy's got a $200,000, $300,000 law education and he may come from the best, most prestigious law school in the world. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to knock somebody on their ass, to literally knock them on their butt, okay, with their big, pompous education. And mentioned in the sewer authority case, the attorney that started that matter, they fired him.
Wow.
She was up on the stand testifying, and the judge said, where's Mr. Sheridan, who basically wrote this fraudulent lien? He's no longer with us. Oh, okay. He's not, huh? Gee, I wonder why that is. State criminal complaints, bar grievances. A discovery request that he looks horrible in.
Well, one thing, man, I'm really glad that that in the situations that the problems that you've had to deal with and the problems that you've helped close friends of yours or family members deal with, that you're taking this information and making it available to people. Another thing, when we were talking about definitions, you mentioned the word or the term patriot mythology. Yeah. And I know that in your Telegram group, you said that you were going to be doing an interview with me today and with Beth Martins tomorrow, and that you wanted to cover this. What exactly do you mean by patriot mythology?
Listen, one of the basics of law, if you can't find it in written black letter law, don't use it. So he got these people running around thinking that they have this straw man, this trust that they can use, that they could pay bills with, people think, okay? I've gotten more letters from people that have lost homes, lost jobs, lost autos, because they did this crazy process somebody taught them, that they wrote their name at a 45-degree angle, and they put a stamp on there, and they put their thumbprint on the stamp, and they sent it in with their Social Security number as payment, and they sent a copy to the Treasury, and they come and they lose the house, okay? Chris, I've gotten this, okay? I had a woman that was headed for jail for drug possession. She was growing marijuana in her home, big crime, growing marijuana in her home. She heard nobody. But they came after her. They sent a SWAT team in her house. Broke in with a SWAT team. Arrested her, looking at jail time. She did all this crazy patriot stuff. I'm not that person. It's the trust. It's this. And the more she did that, the more she got in trouble, to the point where she got in so much trouble that she actually, when she contacted me, and I was busy as heck. I just got done the Crow Show. I'm getting all this stuff being thrown at me. And she got my attention when she said, I have thoughts of taking my own life. I've gotten so depressed, so down with this that I have thoughts of taking my own life. I said, well, I'm going to walk away from this woman. No, I can't do that. So I said, listen, we're going back to ground zero. All that stuff you filed, we're going back to ground zero. We're going to do basically just a basic affidavit, and we're going to state what they did wrong. They came into the property without a search warrant. They had no warrant. So really, anything after that they acquired is and they had no in order to get a warrant, somebody's got to swear an affidavit out that you committed a crime. Okay, it's called an affidavit of probable cause. And under oath or affirmation, they have to swear that you committed a crime or you're about to commit a crime. Then they take that warrant, that affidavit. Every warrant's got to have a supported affidavit of probable cause. So then, say the cop, she's growing marijuana and they think it's a crime. So somebody would have to sit there and write an affidavit out that this woman's committing crime here by growing this marijuana. and they'd have to explain what she's doing, and they'd have to sign their name to it under oath or affirmation. That would then go to a judge. Judge will look at this and determine probable cause. He would look at what was written and going, "Yup, that looks like a crime to me. That would be probable cause." Then he would grant the warrant. Then the SWAT team would take the warrant and they would go break down the door basically and go take her out of the house because they got this warrant, okay? They don't do this most of the time, okay? They just take these actions. They fly off the handle basically. They just go do things because you and I don't hold them accountable. And they're so used to doing this for years, they're not worried about not getting a warrant because, geez, the last 20 years, nobody bothered them about not having a warrant. So they do a lot of things illegally that they're not supposed to do. So we pointed out everything they did wrong. And here's where I knew I had them. And listen, she put a lot of work into this. She wrote the documents. I gave her the points what to hit. She did the documents herself. She wrote them up, and I looked them over and made adjustments. So she goes into a hearing she had, one of the first hearings she had, and the clerk, before that, she tried to file her stuff with the clerk. The clerk wouldn't take her filing, wouldn't take her affidavit, wouldn't take the filing. So she goes into the hearing, and she's dealing with the assistant prosecutor. And the assistant prosecutor says, she goes, first thing she said to him, she said, "Hey, the clerk won't take my filing." He said, "Give it to me. I'll get it filed." Because here's what he's thinking. He knows her from what I say she was filing before, Chris. All that crazy Patriot mythology paperwork. This is another Patriot document we got here. Yeah, give it to me. I'll get that filed. No problem. She takes the document. A week later, she comes back. She got this other hearing she's got to go to. First thing she says, "Did you file my paperwork with the clerk?" No. Hemming and hawing we're getting now. Well, wait a minute. Why didn't you file my paperwork? All kinds of excuses now. "Go get my paperwork," she said. "Go get my paperwork now." He went and got the paperwork, gave it to her. She had a body cam on, okay? She had her phone and she had a body camera on this time. She went down to the clerk and she said, "I want you to file stamp every page of this document." Clerk didn't open up her mouth. Clerk file stamped every page of the document, put the affidavit on record. So now we have a record in an affidavit form stating all these crimes they committed against this woman by breaking into her house without a warrant. 4.5 hours later, she gets a phone call. Dropped all charges. Gone. Everything went away.
Wow.
The letter I got from her, you couldn't give me enough money for the letter because I took a woman that was 2 weeks ago talking about killing herself to where you could feel the euphoria in the writing. This is great. It worked. Like her whole frame of mind switched. And I went, wow, look at that. Like that woman's whole life now changed and she will never do that stupid stuff again with that Patriot stuff. And here's where I want to address that too. Let's dispel some myths. People are getting themselves in trouble with this.
Let me pause you real quick
Sure.
because you mentioned the straw man stuff. Okay, so are you saying that when somebody is born, birthed, whatever the case might be, they got a birth certificate, they got a social security number, they are U.S. citizens, does that create an artificial legal entity, a straw man, when you're born on paper?
No, people think it does, but it doesn't. That birth certificate's probably the most meaningless document you're ever going to see, unless you're involved in an immigration case where they think you're an illegal immigrant or something. That's the only time that would come into play. And even that's a problem because probably nobody who wrote that birth certificate's alive. The doctor's probably dead.
Right.
Your parents are probably passed on. So no, the birth certificate does not create any legal obligation. Listen, I can't make a contract for you. Okay, so your parents. People think, and I always kid around with people, your mommy didn't sign you away at birth, okay? I hear this over and over again from the Patriot crowd.
Now, don't
your
they
mom
have
signed
power,
you away.
Don't your parents have power of attorney over you until you become of legal age?
No one can sign. No one can sign a contract for a baby. Okay, I mean, they can't commit the baby to. They can't. Okay. They can't commit the baby to anything.
We talked a little bit about this, but we didn't dive into it as deep as I'm asking the questions now.
No, and listen, if there was really such a thing going on and they didn't disclose that to your mom, that's fraud on a massive level. Because listen, contracts, offer, acceptance, consideration, meeting of the minds, including full disclosure, and it's got to be signed by two sentient beings. Well, you're a baby. Right. You didn't sign a document. nothing to do with it. That birth certificate is the most meaningless thing. I don't care if there's QSIP numbers on there or not. I don't give it. Guess what? I don't give a darn what they do with that thing. They want to go trade it, let them go trade it. I don't know if they're trading it or not. I could care less. It's got nothing to do with me, and it has no control over me whatsoever. And you're never going to hear anybody walk into a court case and state, I got Mr. Rice's birth certificate. I own his trust. Okay. I'm the executor of the trust. Or, you're never going to hear this. Okay. It doesn't happen.
Right.
This is not way things work.
So
and listen,
people that are doing.
Let me address this real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a status correction. That's another myth. There's no status database. Like they don't look you up and me up.
What exactly is your affidavit of status if you don't see any relevance in status correction?
And actually, I don't even use that anymore. Here's what the affidavit of status is, and here's why I used it. I used it to address local legal entities that were messing with me, the county. And really, if you read my affidavit of status, there's no crazy patriot stuff in there. It's basically stating it's all constitutional stuff. Hey, I got these rights. Hey, you're violating these rights. That's pretty much what the affidavit of status is. I'm not changing my status. I'm letting them know who I am. Hey, listen, I don't work for you guys. I'm not an inhabitant. That's the technical term. They consider you in the county as being one of their inhabitants, which means a member of the corporation. So what that affidavit of status does is state that I'm not one of your inhabitants in a way. I'm not one of your members, okay? I have no legal obligation to you people. I don't even use that anymore. But crazy enough, that document is still knocks stuff out. I had a guy in Hawaii had a mass violation. They arrested him for being in a park that he wasn't allowed to be in. And they had the fines up to like $4,000. My buddy Teddy White, and he passed the document in and let me share it. He sent the recording to me. His hearing lasted all of 60 seconds. He filed the affidavit in there where it was affidavit of status, and we hit some criminal stuff that they did, and they dismissed it right away. Mr. White, have a good day.
That's crazy.
Violation gone. So it does work. It'll put people in their tracks. It'll halt people to a certain degree. But I don't really even use that document. That document is not meant to change your status.
Okay. I just wanted to get clear. I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. It's not changing your status. It's just telling them who you are. Okay.
The patriot mythology, and where you're talking, where a lot of people, because you said it earlier that if it's not written in black and white, I think is the term you used. And that's kind of been my thing. People talk about this being like some nefarious plot by the bad guys, but the bad guys have to dispel the truth. They have to put the truth out there in some fashion. So to me, this would be written somewhere where you can prove it.
Yeah, I mean, if you went in, listen, I know guys that have went in and done this stuff. They argue this trust thing, and the first thing they do is they take them for a mental evaluation. How many times I've seen it over and over again like that?
You broke up again, but you were saying basically they were, and I've heard the same thing, that the judges are saying you sound crazy. You need to have a mental evaluation to determine if you're even sane enough to even have this conversation.
Right. So how do you go in and say, listen, they got this secret trust set up. You guys, I know you guys are doing this. Now you got a psychiatrist there, whatever. Where are you seeing this? Where did you get this from? Oh, I read it on the internet. I seen this guy in an interview talking about it. You're going to sound like a crazy person. Okay. Now listen, let me explain. I'm a trust expert, but I know basic law, I know contract law, and I know how things work. I could set a trust up and make you a beneficiary in the trust. Okay. I could do that. But that creates no legal duties or obligations upon you. Okay. And you don't have to accept the benefits of the trust. So you don't have to take whatever I'm offering you in the trust. You don't need to take. Okay. I could do that. So that trust creates no responsibility to you. Now, if I make you if I make you a beneficiary in my trust I create, I sure as hell can't go in and start writing legal instruments against you, Chris. I can't go start creating documents against you and securitizing your name without your knowledge, because that would be securities fraud. Okay, that would be fraud, securities fraud, executing documents by deception, tampering with government records. You go on a whole other host of crimes, but that's what these people are claiming.
There's no security being created when we're born.
No, they can't create a security on you. In other words, if I made you a beneficiary in a trust, I couldn't securitize your name because I made you a beneficiary. I couldn't go benefit off your name. That would be securities fraud. Here, let me go make Chris the beneficiary, and then I'm going to go create this secret trust, and I'm going to get the treasurer to pay me this money, and I'm not going to tell Chris. And then when he gets a ticket, he don't know he's not really, he's not the beneficiary. Chris, I can't do any of that stuff. That's called securities fraud. Somebody came in and told me that, I'd bring him before the SEC so quick their head would spin. And we got a guy, I hate going into details about it, but we got a guy that actually had a mortgage due at one point with a lender. And the lender, when they sold the loan, for some reason, they wrote the loan off to the insurance company, which means the insurance company paid the balance of the loan. He had come to terms, it was Barclays. He had come to terms with them. He was having, I guess, financial problems, and they reworked the loans for him. But the lender agreed to do that. It wasn't like he changed them himself. They both agreed. Both parties agreed that they could change the terms. So Barclays had this altered loan, and he was paying it. He was keeping his part up. But when they sold it, they decided to, for whatever reason why they sold it, why they did this. They probably do this a lot. They just don't get caught on it.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up really badly again. I'm trying to make sure I can make out what you're saying.
Okay.
After we're done recording,
tell me when I'm back.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's okay. After we're done recording, I want to offer.
I gotta get a hard line in here. This is a wireless connection. This is a wireless. I gotta get a hard line in here.
That's exactly what I was gonna offer, was to tell you to hard line in, because that's what I have to do, because
I gotta run an Ethernet cable over to here. Yeah. Am I back? Am I okay?
Yeah, no, you're good. It's just the reason I had to stop you is just because it was breaking up to the point where I couldn't even make out. And I know the other people wouldn't be able to make out what you were saying.
Stop me right away so I don't. I'm not going on.
Right. So that's what I was trying to do. I know that's what I was trying to do.
So what they did with this guy is what they did with this guy is they wrote the loan off, so they got paid for the loan. So the new lender buys the loan, the new acquirer of the debt, supposedly, and they wanted to go back to the original terms of the loan, which weren't going to work for him. And they were going to start a foreclosure process against him and come get the house. Okay. So we had them, first thing we do is we want documents from people. So we went to we had him go to the original lender, Barclays, give me all the documents. And I don't know if somebody did it on purpose, but they sort of did him a favor. All right. And I don't know if it was done on purpose. It was done by accident. They gave him a copy showing that the insurance company had already satisfied the loan of the claim. So now we got
they gave a copy. Repeat that again. They gave a copy. What?
They gave a copy in the paperwork that Barclays provided to him. In there was a copy basically proving that Barclays had claimed the loan against their insurance and they were paid for it. In other words, Barclays had no loss in this matter. So they gave him that.
What they normally do is they'll sell that debt to another collection agency, and the very first entity would have already recouped based off that insurance claim.
Right, and that's the thing is this may be a common practice among them. In other words, they may do this thousands of times and never get caught on it. Because had this guy not known any better, he would start paying these people, and he would have been in a foreclosure proceeding with them. Because he don't know. All he thinks is that the loans must be existent. He don't know that at that time that Barclays wrote it off, that they got paid for it. So maybe they did him a favor. Maybe somebody from Barclays, because he was talking to them. Maybe they figured, I'm going to stick this document in there and let him do what he wants with it. Well, once he had that document, now we had him go to the SEC. We were just talking about securities fraud. Now we had him go to the SEC. Hey, I had this loan with these guys. They sold it to these guys over here, and they were already paid for it. Here's the document proving that they were paid for it. Look, I got a copy showing that they were reimbursed and never lost a penny. And now I got these guys coming at me, and it was an attorney coming at them and a judge that was rubber stamping everything this guy was doing in a court proceeding to basically take this guy's house, to steal this guy's house. Well, once we filed the SEC complaint, and he had the hard goods by having the document, he contacted him and said, we're going to further investigate this. And they reached out to the parties. The lender that basically said, he owes them this money. They're going to foreclose on him. So once that went out, when they found out that the SEC investigation was going forward, within 24, 40 hours, you hear me? Can you hear me? Chris, you there?
Yeah, I was muted. I was muted. I can hear you.
Okay,
I thought I was unmuted. I apologize. It was just breaking
no
up
problem. I
again.
thought I thought I had a connection problem. Okay, so
It was, but it
here's what
was
happened.
breaking up.
Once they get
It was. I mean, we got a slight delay, and it was breaking up just a tad bit there at the end of what
okay.
you were saying.
So we had him go when we knew he had that document. We filed a complaint with the SEC for securities fraud. Okay, and since he had the document, they decided that they were going to pursue it. Once the other party, meaning the lender and the judge that was involved in this, found out that they were going to pursue this, within 24, 48 hours, they flew a guy out of his house, got out of a car, came in with a briefcase, they wrote a $350,000 check. So not only did his mortgage go away that he had, he walked away with a $350,000 check. Now, it wasn't just me did that. There was a guy, Brett Fountain, in my Telegram group, and he's in Randy Kelton's Telegram group. We both helped this guy with this. We didn't hold his hand. We pointed him in the right direction. Hey, go do this, go do that. He did the legwork. And he was a smart guy. And he wrote nice documents. Documents were so good that his father-in-law, that's an ex-judge, looked at him and went, "Wow, now this guy's a truck driver." Okay, his father-in-law, he said that never really thought he had respect for him because all the family were lawyers. He's a judge, and all his wife's family, they're all the brothers, they're lawyers, and he was sort of the lowly truck driver. Okay, well, when he read the document this guy prepared, he was like, "Whoever you wrote this against," he said, "they're in a heck of a lot of trouble with this stuff." He knew it. That judge, his father-in-law, actually was there when they came in to give him that check. When they signed that check over to him, he was there to see his son-in-law collect that check. Okay, so
Now,
this is what you
did
do.
they do that though? Did they do that to avoid them getting in trouble? They basically paid this guy off so that he wouldn't push for them to be convicted.
Bingo. Yeah, because otherwise, hey, now we're dealing with securities fraud. Now the attorney could lose his license. The judge could lose his judgeship. Okay, now these people might go to jail.
And by him taking that $350,000 payoff, he can't pursue any sort of charges. He can't.
I'm sure they
against
had a
them.
document there. He had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay.
Right.
And what that NDA says is, hey, listen, we're going to give you this check for $350, but we're done here. That's it. There's no more SEC stuff. no more this or that. We're all done here. Okay. And that's what the NDA is.
Okay.
So that's why I can't give his name out, but I could tell you, what happened.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. What were some of the other things that you wanted to dispel in the Patriot?
Yeah, here's the big one. I feel like taking my head and banging it against the wall when people tell me this. When you register your car with the DMV, or you register your house, your home, your land with the county, they don't because you registered it.
Repeat what they can't tell you.
When you register your car with the DMV, people think the DMV now owns your car, okay?
Right.
And when you register your land or your house with the county, people think the county now owns your house. Nothing could be further from the truth, okay? This is not how property rights work.
When people talk about allodial titles, that you don't have your allodial
title. You got it when you buy it. You have a allodial title. You can only own property in the U.S. allodial. Now listen,
that's the only way.
If you're paying a mortgage, you have what I call qualified ownership. You have full title to the property as long as you pay that mortgage. Okay? If you default on that mortgage, you're going to lose the house. Okay? That's why I tell people, stop doing this crazy. Prove to me. They send it to their mortgage company. Prove to me where you got the funds for the mortgage. Oh, this is not going to go over well with your mortgage company. Okay? If you're going to start down this road, prove to me where you got the funds and it came from my signature, you're going to get yourself in trouble real quick, and they're going to come to your house eventually. Don't mess with them with that. I'm telling you, you're going to get clocked. I've seen people do this over and over again, and I hear from them. So you can't do that. That's not what registration is. When you register property, it's to register to the public to let everybody else know that, hey, that's mine. So you have public record that that's your property. So that people can't come in and tinker with your property, because you got a public record of it, and you should have a private record of it, which is the actual deed and the title of, that's your proof that you own that property. That's the only purpose of registering property, is to make a public record that you own it. You don't waive any rights when you register property, number one, okay? You don't waive any rights, and you're not granting any rights to property to somebody else, Okay, just because you register something with somebody doesn't mean you granted authority in it. It's like, think about registering a blender you bought. Okay, when you register a blender with the company, does the company now have an interest in the blender? They have partial ownership of the blender? No. It's the same thing with your house, whether it's a blender or it's your house. You know.
Well, where do you
Register for
think this is
contractor.
coming from? Like, why
What's
are
that?
people making where is this coming from? Like, where do you think that this is becoming, like, why is
Oh,
this something that you had to dispel?
there's people that are there's people making, it's a cottage industry. There's people making a lot of money off this stuff. They're selling subscriptions to their website. They're selling their documents. They're selling their books. I look at that stuff and I laugh because I talked to a guy that I know has got about $45 million in actual cash settlements. I talk to him maybe once a week. He's a friend of mine. Okay. I seen him get about 3 dozen properties off the tax roll. I seen him take a guy whose property they stole. They took his property, this guy. They arrested the guy as a vagrant because he was in his own house. Because the county claimed that they now owned the property for property taxes, and he was a vagrant. So they put him in jail. They sold everything he had. Everything in the house he lost. He was living in a basement with his mom. He had nothing. Lost everything he had, nothing. And Steve writes to him, and Steve knew him from school, and Steve gets a hold of him, and he says, hey, listen, I'm going to send you some information about this tax thing. And you don't want to hear nothing about it. Steve, the property's gone. I'm not going to get it back. Because that's what we're told, right? And that's what we're taught, that we can't do nothing about it now. They moved a family in there. There was a family living in there. It was gone. Property was gone. So he gets into John's ear, and he gets them to read the information that he sent him, okay? And he calls Steve up, and he said, do you think we have a chance? He said, yeah, I think we got a good chance here. So Steve drafts the suit up. Steve writes it up. But Steve knows he can't go in and litigate the suit. He's got to teach him how to litigate the suit. All right? It's the only way this is going to work. An attorney's not going to do this. You think an attorney's going to go against the county where he makes his bread and butter?
Right.
He's not going to go against that county. And he's not going to open up the floodgates for everybody coming at the county for property tax fraud. He's not going to touch this, an attorney. So you got to be able to do this yourself. So he had to teach him how to litigate it. And he had to know the suit as good as Steve did. And he did. When he got to that point where he knew the suit as good as Steve did, then he filed a $400 million suit against the county. And it wasn't a number he pulled out of his brand. It was an actual, based on them arresting him, because they go by, like, Tresvant is a famous settlement where they got about $60,000 an hour for being falsely arrested or falsely detained. So he did all the calculations, and he could justify the numbers, and he had $400 million was the figure he had. They called him in to talk about, about week 5, they called him in. First of all, they requested mediation with him, and the guy basically told him to go scratch. Anthony, what you guys did to me, I don't want to talk to any of yous. Let's get this on in court. Let's go to court. So finally, they petitioned the court for mediation, forced them to the mediation table. And it really wasn't even handled like a mediation, because it was more like an interview, because Steve went with him and he was there. And here's what they wanted to know. Did he write that lawsuit? And if he didn't write that lawsuit, can he litigate that lawsuit? Does he know what's in that lawsuit? So that if we go to court with him, is he going to fall apart? Because if he printed this off the internet or somebody wrote it for him and he can't litigate it in front of a jury, we're going to go into court and destroy him.
Yeah.
You don't know what's in the lawsuit. So when they started at $800,000 settlement, okay, when they got the $5 million, they wanted the house back. Remember, they already got the family living in the house. They already got the house. They got a family living in there. At $5 million, they wanted the guy they sold the house from. They now wanted him to sign the house over to them because they don't have title to the house. The only one who can sell that property is the owner, the title holder. Okay, you don't have title to property, you can't sell it. Okay, county doesn't have title. Never had title. So now get this: the family got living in there that they sold the tax deeds on. They sold them the tax deed to come steal the house from John. So now they gotta get John to sign the house over to them because now they're worried about what I'm gonna do with the family in there that's been living there all the time. And that was off the table because they came back and said, no, you're not getting the house back. Or I would.
You were breaking up just a little bit. Did you say they did get the house back in addition to a settlement?
Yeah, well, they. I said, what's funny is the county. They already stole the house from them. They sold tax certificates on it. They sold it to this family. They got a family living in there. So now during the negotiations in this matter, they want John, who they stole the house from, they took the house from him. They want him to sign the house over to them, further proving that they never owned the house. Because now they're worried about what are we going to do with this family living in the house? We got to get rid of them, you know? And that was off the table for the guy that they took the house from because it was a matter of pride and it was a matter of principle. And he wanted his neighbors to know that he beat them. So they said, the house is off the table. You're not getting the house back, okay? It's not coming back. You ain't getting it. So when they got up to $38.2 million, John finally settled. John got the house back, got $38.2 million. Oh, and there was a little caveat that Steve threw in there for him. They told the county, we want you to take all the utility meters off the property. Take the water meter off, the gas meter, the electric meter. We don't want anybody stepping on this property ever again that has no right to be in this property. They took all the meters off the property. He's got free utilities for life.
Wow.
Okay. Got
now,
his house.
Was this Steve Emerson?
Yeah.
I
tell people, come to, when you come on the Telegram site, he's done about 6 interviews that we know that I could find. He might have done more, but that's the only ones we know of. Somebody put them together in a zip file. They put some documents that Steve had given me that I provided to them. And they got Steve's property tax document on there. It's a 28-page document that Steve decides on his own who he's going to help out, you know, what he wants to get involved in, what case. But the first document he gives them is this 28-page document. It's Florida-centric, but it could be transferred over to any state. It's all the same stuff. So that's the first document he gives them is this 28-page document. Hey, go read this document, and then go start reading your state tax code. Because he's got to get them to wrap their head around the tax code of what it is, what this is, and how this works is like we were talking about earlier. You got to file returns in order to get an assessment. No return, no assessment. So this is where we tell people that we push them towards the Jurisdictionary course. Right? Now, that's written by an attorney, actually an active attorney. I think Dr. Gray's been an attorney for 40 years. Let me tell you something. I don't care if I sound like a pimp or not. That's the best $250 you could ever spend in your life. Not only did I take that course, Steve started out with that course too. He went through there.
It's a jurisdiction course?
Jurisdictionary, it's called. Jurisdictionary.
Okay.
Or How to Win in Court. The two things. He calls it How to Win in Court or Jurisdictionary. But right. I was talking to Steve a couple weeks ago and he said, you know, I still like brush through that thing just for a couple reminders. So you could go pay a lawyer probably $300 or $400 an hour for 1 hour of his time, or you can go pay $250, and I'll send you the link for the course if you could post it.
Okay.
Yeah. You go spend $250 and have a legal course that will stun the people you're dealing with, because when I got involved, when I got thrown into this stuff, they didn't expect to see what they seen come from me. They were expecting free man on the land. That's my trust. This, that. Nah, I'm going to do motions. Hey, motion to dismiss. Lack of personal jurisdiction over me. Lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Nobody filed a complaint in this matter. A municipal claim is not a civil complaint, and it's not a criminal complaint. No complaint, no subject matter jurisdiction for the court.
Let me
say I owed them some kind of money, this fee, because the sewer authority can't tax, but they're saying I owed them this money, so then they're going to need to produce a contract. Because they just can't perform services for me and send me bills. That's like me running to your house and cutting your grass there and sending you a $100 bill for cutting your grass. You'd be like, get out of here. I didn't tell you to cut my grass. It's the same thing with them. They got to have black letter written law on how they're doing what they're doing, okay? So
that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's real common sense stuff. And Steve's knocked a lot of the IRS stuff out, too. He's gotten cases knocked out. And it's a 4-page document that's also up in the Telegram group that you can download. And Steve don't argue the tax code. Let's not get past the definition of taxpayer. Why do we want to argue the tax code when they can't get past the definition of taxpayer? Because what's a taxpayer? We were talking about this. They're all legal entities, aren't they? They're defined as legal entities. So then what documents, what do they have to prove that you're a taxpayer in this matter? So we don't worry about arguing the tax code. You need to get past the definition of taxpayer first before we go down this road. And things seem to go away like that. When they know there's somebody on the other side that's not throwing his patriot crap at them saying, hey, I'm the beneficiary. Write this off to the Treasury. Here's my 45-degree angle sign thing with my $2 stamp over top of it, or whatever other crazy thing it is. They get that, they're going to go, steamroll this guy. Go get him. But when they see a legally put together a document and it's based in law and facts, and there might be some politics involved in it, depending on what else you've done before you filed that document, like state criminal complaints, bar grievances, judicial complaints. Now we get into the politics of the thing. When they see you operating against them like that, they get nervous because they know you're not another one of the monkeys.
You're not some crazy free man on the land.
No, you can hold them accountable. You know how to hold them legally accountable. You may know how to hold them. You may know how to go after their job. Because what you do may cost them their insurance. Because you're going to step in. They're trying to get $28,000 from this woman. I'm going to try and take $1.5 million away from them. You think their insurance company's going to look at that and be real happy and go, wait a minute.
Not at all.
Tell me about this case. Imagine insurance calling them up. Now, wait a minute. We just got this suit filed against you for $1.5 million. Tell me about this case. What's this case about? Well, she was taking the dog through the common area. He wasn't in a wagon. Wasn't in a wagon. Wait a minute. So how did you get the $28,000? Well, there was legal fees. We had a lot of legal fees and we had fines. Fines for what? Well, the dog wasn't in a wagon. Dude, the insurance company's going to go, we got to settle this thing. We are not going into court and risk losing $1.5 million because the dog wasn't in a wagon, okay? This is not going to happen. So they're going to probably come to the early settlement table and they're going to get a settlement to make you go away, make you sign a non-disclosure. And that's fine. That's what we want. We'll sign the NDA and take the money and move on,
What about the principle of not taking the money and just getting these people to be accountable for their actions?
Listen, we've talked about this too, and Steve and I've talked about this too. We just don't think you're going to do this from the top down. You're not going to do it from the top down. You're not going to change. You're not going to bring the matrix down in one fell swoop. You're not going to do it. You bring it down from the bottom up. One man, one woman at a time. One town, one city, one county at a time. Because imagine if there were 2, 3, or 4 Steve Emersons in every county filing multi-million-dollar tax fraud suits. How quickly do you think maybe the system would change? Okay. And then other people would start catching on and figuring out, well, now there's no longer 3 or 4 people doing that. Maybe there's 10 or 20 people doing that. And maybe there's 30 or 40 people doing that. And here's another brilliant thing I learned from Steve. That's why I love talking to him. I get these little ideas off him. When Steve filed that suit to get his house back, that $400 million suit that settled for 38.2, he did a media blitz. He took copies of the complaint, put a little cover sheet on there basically stating, hey, if you're paying property taxes, you're being ripped off. Okay. Put that little cover sheet on that property tax suit, and he sent it to all the local media. All the national media. He sent it to Nancy Grace. He sent it to Judge Janine Shapiro. Nancy Grace and Shapiro's people were actually calling the county to find out when they were going to submit their answer. Because he did it to all the national people, the local people, the national people, and he sent it to the alphabet agencies, the local FBI.
This was before they came up with the settlement?
Yeah. As soon as he got the case number, as soon as the case got assigned, they give you a case number when you file it. As soon as he had the case number, he printed it out because he said a lot of the media people have Pacer accounts. They could Pacer's what the federal court uses to put their documents up. So if you have a Pacer account, you can go look at federal cases. You can read the pleadings. Okay. So all the local media people, definitely the national people, probably a lot of local media people, they have Pacer accounts. So as long as they got the docket number of your case, they can go on Pacer and they could start seeing, gee, how did the county answer this? Because I'm looking at this lawsuit. It looks pretty darn good. Okay. I can't wait to see how they're going to answer this. So what happened is once those phone calls start coming in from the media people, that made them real nervous. Because now they got not only local attention, they got national attention. And then he also had local people calling up, neighbors, people in the county. Hey, I'm looking at this suit filed against you guys. This looks pretty good. When are you guys going to be submitting your answer? And they're going to state, we can't make any comments on that. That's ongoing litigation. No, I understand that, but I want to find out, when are you going to give your answer? Because when you file a suit, the other side must answer you. So now the county knows, holy heck, national media's calling local media, and now we're getting calls from local people. wanted to find out what we're going to submit, when we're going to submit it, because they know that there's property tax fraud going on. Now they're nervous. Because if this gets out and everybody learns that what the jig is up, basically, because now everybody in the county could take that suit that Steve filed and put their name on it. And then they can go sue for that if they study it and litigate it. So we believe that's the only way to do this is from the bottom up. I don't think you're going to bring the system down. They're not going to let you bring it down like that. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to work like that. And I know that discourages people. And I hear people tell me they get up on their soapbox and they're so pure and they're so godly because money should have nothing to do with it. Well, guess what? Money has everything to do with it. You know why money has everything to do with it? I don't make my money off the backs of the people I help. And Steve don't make the money off the backs of people he helps. I never charge anybody a dime. You'll never find anybody in my group that said I charge them anything for any help. Okay? I won't make my money. I'll make it from the county. I'll make it from the thieves that have been doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing. I'll make it from the local borough, the local township. I will ring them, put them through the ringer. I will make my money, but I'll let them pay me. I'm not going to grow it off the back of people that are in trouble, okay? So you have to do this. That. And like Steve said, listen, you do this once and you do it properly, they're never going to bother you again. Let me stick the light on here. Let me see if I get some light for us.
Good. Yeah, I was going to say, it got incredibly dark. We're both on the East Coast, but it looks like
it's all sunlight we're working with, natural light. So when you bang them just once, I don't care if it's a traffic matter if you did it in, okay? If you fought a traffic matter and you brought it into federal court and you banged them, they are going to leave you alone. They're going to know your name in the county, okay? The judges talk amongst each other, and so do the attorneys. They're going to know you're that guy. Oh, you're that guy. You filed that property tax suit. And they're looking at they're looking at the county records online, and you got all zeros next to your county, your property. They're looking next to theirs, and they got numbers next to theirs, and you're all zeroed out. So I don't think I want to mess with this guy, okay? Because he must know something. Well, and that's what we know is we're using the actual law.
Let me ask you this, and I guess we'll make this the last question because of the internet. And then if you're cool with it, I'd like to get in touch with you in the next couple of days and maybe get you scheduled right after the beginning of the year and continue the conversation.
Sure.
One, what you do, and I've mentioned this before in our first conversation, and I compared a lot of your methods to Carl Lentz. I call it navigating the waters. Like just you understand the law enough to navigate using the system as opposed to the Patriot mythology. You mentioned bringing the matrix down. You mentioned doing it from a bottom up approach. You mentioned my cousin Vinny. And my cousin Vinny was going to take a bar exam. He was actually going to become an attorney.
He was an attorney. It took him took him 6 or 7 chances. It took him 6 times, I think, to pass it.
Have you thought about that though? Have you considered going that route so that you can represent people?
Listen, I sleep well at night and I keep my hands in my own pockets. Okay, I don't want to be an attorney. Okay, so I'm not looking to be an attorney.
I was just curious because it seems like you would be so powerful as an attorney.
Well, I don't think they would have me. I think I would probably I wouldn't be able to practice. I'd be disbarred. They would get me out of the bar. They couldn't have me, somebody like me or somebody like Steve doing that, or Randy Kelton doing that, or Dave Merlin. They couldn't have them people doing that. You'd be a disaster for them because they want to keep their system going, okay? So listen, if there's a couple monkeys smart enough to figure out how to really this system's supposed to work, and if they're not doing it right, there's another thing let me address real quick too. I hear this all the time, Chris, Patriot mythology. The system's corrupt. I've heard this so many times. The system's corrupt. The system is damn near perfect, okay? Blaming the system is like having some guy that was molesting kids in a house. It's like blaming the house for the guy molesting the kids, okay? The house has nothing to do with it. The system has nothing to do with it, okay? It's the people in the system that are abusing the system. And that's what makes them so easy to set up. Because that system, when you read it, when you actually read the laws and you read the rules of civil procedure and what they are and how things have to be done, how this case has to be moved, and you find out that they're not doing that, and guess what? In almost every case, they don't do it right. They're not doing it. They're not doing it right. And you're going to find all kinds of errors they're making. And you know why they make them errors? Because nobody ever calls them on it. And they've been doing this for years. It's their custom, their practice, and their policy. And nobody calls them on it. But then you might get me or you pop up that know something just a little bit, and we know how to move. We know how to move a court against them. That's how you get somewhere. You move a court. Courts don't do anything until you move them. So when I bring a pleading in, the other side's got to answer, and if they don't answer, I will move that court against them now for a default judgment because they didn't answer my pleading. I will move that court against them. So when they do something against me, I file a motion to challenge what they filed against me. They now got to answer my motion. Okay. And now we're going to wind up in a hearing about my motion, and they got to explain how I'm wrong in my motion. And I got to argue my motion, that why my motion's right. But they're not used to this. They're not used to us doing this to them. When they see somebody doing this to them, it makes them nervous. It scares them. Because think about if you had the knowledge of an attorney. Remember, attorneys they're handcuffed. They're not going to go against the county. They're not going to do anything to go against the bar. And my God, they're not going to do anything to piss off that judge because they may be in front of that judge for the next 10, 15, 20 years with cases. So they're on eggshells. Like Randy Kelton said, attorneys are hanging by their bar card. Okay? Judge could snatch that bar card away anytime he wants. So they hang by their bar card. That judge can make their life a living hell. So now we know the limitations of an attorney. They're not going to go against the county. They're not going to anything they're not going to go against the bar. Okay, they don't want to create waves and create some precedent that's going to hurt the county. So imagine having the knowledge of an attorney, but not having his limitations. I don't care about the county. I could care less about the county. I could care less about the judge. I'm dying to get the judge into a case. I'm not worried about him. He should be worried about me, real worried about me. Because by the time I get him in federal district court, he's already probably got about 2 or 3 judicial complaints against him and some state criminal complaints that I've filed against him. Now, listen, if I'm filing frivolous state criminal complaints, they better come arrest me. That's what they're supposed to do. If I'm filing frivolous state criminal complaints against this judge, they should come arrest me. Guess what? Guess what never happens?
They never get arrested.
They never come arrest me. You know why? I don't know, because they don't want to get into details of what's in those criminal complaints. Because the DA will run cover for the judge. He'll state, nope, the county didn't do nothing wrong here, or the attorney didn't do nothing wrong, or just, whoever it's in the county. You write criminal complaints against individuals. So if you were going for the county, I'd go after the property assessor or the tax assessor or the treasurer, whoever. So the DA is who's going to run cover for them. They're going to say, they'll give you your criminal complaint back. Okay. They'll say, pick up your criminal complaint, Mr. Faggiolo, and you'll swing by the courthouse where the DA's office is, and you'll pick your criminal complaint up, and there'll be a cover sheet there, and it'll say, no probable cause checked off. That's all. So he looked at that and he went, we ain't gonna touch this. And he's not gonna go after them. He's not gonna do anything to them. We know that. So he's gonna check no probable cause. Well, if I keep filing these frivolous criminal complaints, and I filed many of them, if I keep filing these frivolous criminal complaints, this judge should come after me. My God, I'm trying to end his career. Or whoever I fought, the attorney should come after me. I'm trying to end his career. Why are they not coming near me? Because nobody wants to talk about the details of what's in my criminal complaints. Because if it goes before a court and we actually talk about what's in here, we're going to find out that attorney forged a municipal lien against my property because he's got no rights in the property. He had no authority to create a municipal lien. He has no proof that I have any obligation to the municipality. Yet he created that document and he filed it in that court and told him that I owed him this money. That's called forgery. That's execution of documents by deception. That's deceptive and fraudulent business practices. That's theft. Okay? That's tamper with government instruments. See how quickly this starts to pile up on Mr. Attorney? So think about me and you. If you took the Jurisdictionary course and you learned the actual law, put all the Patriot mythology stuff away. Like, what's called Dave Merlin's mentor told him, Kurt Reagan. Take all that stuff, put it in a box, put it up on a shelf, and never look at it again. Use the real law. Go learn the jurisdictionary stuff. Go study this stuff. Go read case law. Go read American jurisprudence and see what the courts say about property rights. Because when I got American jurisprudence, which is sort of like the pinnacle law dictionary, okay, it'll tell you what, like if you want to look at what a trespass is, it'll explain what a trespass is, what the elements are, and what the courts have stated about it. So when you read that, you pretty much, when you file that stuff into your court pleadings, your arguments, your complaints, it's no longer my opinion telling you this. Hey, look, Supreme Court said this. This has to happen. That has to happen. So now it's just not my opinion when I'm filing. I state my thing, but it's coming from that case law. See how this goes now? Now it's not me saying it, this dummy pro se guy, idiot. He's citing Supreme Court cases here. We can't overthrow that. They don't have any authority to do that. So you start putting them in untenable positions. So if you had the power, if you had the knowledge of an attorney without his limitations, you're sort of like Superman according around them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's got limitations.
The way that you're explaining it definitely makes a lot of sense. And when I talked to you the first time, you had mentioned Randy Kelton, and I've spoken with him.
You should get Randy. You should get Randy on.
He's going to be on the show, and
cool.
I'm going to talk with you about getting Steve Emerson on as well. And
also get Randy's sidekick on, Brett Kelton. He does the Brett Fountain. Sorry. He'll love that when he hears it. Sorry, Brett. I apologize sincerely.
What's his last name though?
Brett Fountain.
Fountain. Okay. Yeah, because Randy's given me his number, so I'll mention that to him as well.
Yeah, Randy's a great guy. Randy's the kind of guy where he's in a court, he's before a judge, and the judge does something, Randy pulls out his cell phone, 911. Can't have a cell phone here. Sir, are you interrupting an emergency 911 call? Silence in the court. I'm going to need you to send an officer here. For what? I need somebody to arrest the judge.
That's
He's done it. He's done it to a cop on the side of a road, okay? Cop pulls him over. Get off the phone. Are you interfering with a 911 emergency call? And the cop's like, oh, 911. And you just sent some here to arrest this officer. He committed it, and he's got the statutes out of his head. He committed blah, 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 statute felony. I need him arrested. So now all of a sudden, it's no longer about the traffic stop. It's no longer about what that judge had in front of him. It's about the law that they just broke, or the code, or the violation they just did. You now take, it's like, what do they call it, judo. You take, is that judo, where you take the person's energy and you flip it around on them? Or is that jiu-jitsu? I don't know which one.
I'm not sure which way, because I'm not a martial artist, but it's one of the forms of martial arts. It's using chi. I want to say that is, I have no clue. That's what I'm saying.
That's, you know what I'm talking about, where you take their energy and you sort of go, oh, we're here for me? Wait a minute. What about what you did? Look at this. Hey, you did that. You broke this law. You broke that law. And when you start moving against them by filing bar grievances, judicial complaints, state criminal complaints, and actual lawsuits, you get their attention. Okay. One more thing, let me address real quick. Affidavits. Affidavits, statement of facts. Mm-hmm. Never put anything that you don't have first-hand personal knowledge of. I would never cite some study somebody did. Dude, I wasn't in that study. I don't know anything about that study. I don't know if that was a phony study or what. So I can't cite anything that I don't have personal knowledge of.
So you don't cite old court cases or anything like that?
No, in an affidavit, you really wouldn't want to do that. Okay. Basically, you're stating your facts. You're basically stating, hey, listen, you guys, you filed a municipal lien against me, but that is not a civil complaint. It's not a criminal complaint. How did you do that? Basically, so I could state that you guys exerted acts of ownership and control over my property by filing that municipal lien. Well, that's a fact, because by him filing that municipal lien, he exerted acts of ownership and control over my property that he doesn't have. And there's no statute he can point to or any law that gives him that authority. Not going to happen. So you only put facts in affidavits. Here's another myth about affidavits. People believe that you have to send multiple affidavits out. Second affidavit, third affidavit. And if they don't respond to your affidavit, that it becomes tacit law. It's the truth and it's unrebuttable. Not true. Nobody's got to respond to your affidavit, okay? The only reason I use an affidavit, and I have other people use it, is to sort of stop the potential court case that'll be coming next. Hey, by the way, here's the stuff you did, and here's the constitutional violations that you committed of my secured rights. Here's the state and federal crimes you committed here, right here. So, listen, I'm going to need you guys to cease and desist from what you're doing right now, or we're going to wind up in court together. That's backed a lot of people off. Not everybody, but it's backed a lot of people off where employers have dropped mandates and, these seemingly problems somehow go away because now they see a affidavit that's notarized. And usually when someone starts sending you notarized documents and I tell people also, put the certified mail number in the document. Make sure you put the certified mail number in the document so the document can be attached to that mailing. So you know what you're talking about there.
And that's what's down here under the respondents after you put down an address.
You see the certified mail number? Yeah. So, and that also lets the other party know if they think you're BSing them, they can go look that up on the USPS website and they go, "Yep, he sent this out to me." Yep, So you can now prove that I can prove he got that mailing. Okay, so it's not like he could say. And here's another thing I like with affidavits, but I only use one. It's one and done. If they don't respond, then we're going to court. I'm going to sue you. Here's the other thing I like. One of the key elements of a crime is you need criminal intent. In other words, you may damage or harm somebody, but that might have been by accident. Like, say I'm driving down the road and I swerve to miss a kid, to miss a dog in the road because it's just reaction, and I hit a kid on a bike. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a bad thing and whatever, but I mean, it's not a crime. I didn't go out with intention to hit the kid on the bike, and I didn't purposely hit the kid. It was just an incident that happened. It wasn't a purposeful thing. So there's no way they could prosecute me for a crime in that matter because there's no criminal intent. I didn't go out to hit the kid. I swerved to miss the dog. I hit the kid. It was an accident. There's no criminal intent. But if I send you an affidavit and I put all the stuff in there, all the crimes you committed there, state and federal, that it looks like you're committing here, how do you turn around later when I start filing real criminal complaints against you? And if someone interviews you, like the DA, how do you turn around and argue that you had no criminal intent? You had no knowledge? Well, gee, I put in an affidavit for you. I sent it to you. I told you you're committing these crimes. You've known about it for 3 months. What do you mean you didn't know? I told you right there in the affidavit. So now I sort of take away criminal intent away from him because he can't come in and go, well, I was just doing my job. Because now you sound like the Nazis with throwing the people in the gas chambers. I was just doing my job. I didn't know, but I sent you a document. Oh, I didn't read your document. Well, that's your problem. You didn't read it because I gave you notice that you were committing a crime against me. I asked you to stop. You didn't stop. So don't turn around to me and tell me you didn't have criminal intent. You had every opportunity to stop what you were doing. That's how I use an affidavit. One and done, that's it. They're under no obligation to respond to me. And if they don't respond to me, if they don't stop what they're doing, a lot of times they won't respond with the affidavit, but they'll stop doing what they're doing. Somehow the company will drop their vaccination mandate. That will go away, okay? Happens a lot. We see it. And if they don't, then I gotta know what's in that jurisdictionary course and know the stuff that Steve talks about. You know, you got to be able to move a case. When I say move a case, there's only two things matter. I don't care what they call me. I don't care if my name's in all cap letters. They can put my name in 20-foot lights. I don't really care. Here's the only two things that matter in any case, in any matter. What's in my pleading? And yes, I call it a pleading because that's the legal term for it. What's in my pleading? Because in my pleading, I got to state causes of action. Each cause of action has certain elements that have to be met. If one cause of action has 5 elements, and I only prove 4, that cause of action falls. Okay? You need all 5. It's like doing a puzzle. This cause of action has 3 elements. This one has 4 elements. This one has 6 elements. So you got to go through and plead a cause of action, and then you got to prove the elements of the cause of action. Pretty common sense, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty logical. Doing a puzzle. If I'm going to use this cause of action, I got to do these 5 things I got to prove. So now I got to take what was done, the facts of what was done, and relate it back to that cause of action to prove that, look, this meets element 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I just proved that cause of action. So if I could do that, I could write papers like that. I'm competent to write legal pleadings like that. And I know what's on that paper, and I could litigate it, meaning if we go to trial, I could walk into court and litigate that piece of paper. They know that I can move that case against them. That's the only 2 things that matter. And guess what? If I could do those 2 things, I'm going to say there's probably a 99% chance that you're never going to trial. You're never going to have a trial. Because when you lay out the goods you got on them, you got multiple causes of action laid out there. I don't do one cause of action. I might have 12 causes of action in there. And then I go into state and federal crimes they committed, and I ask for the impanelment of the grand jury like we talked about earlier. Hey, there's also crimes these guys committed. Even though it's a civil pleading, I'm going to want to ask you guys to impanel the grand jury so that we can stop these people from doing this, because guess what? This looks like RICO to me. What they're doing with the property tax stuff, it's just not my house that wound up on the property tax roll like that. They're doing this to thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people throughout the county. This is RICO. This is organized crime. They do not want that. Remember we talking about PACER, where people could access documents? Mm-hmm. They don't want to see people. First of all, they don't know how to answer that pleading. They really can't answer it. And if they come out with some ridiculous pleading, then the jig's up. If they come out with some ridiculous answer, I get to answer them back and blow it away. Usually they'll file what's called a 12B6 motion in federal court to try and knock my pleading out. Well, if they do that and their answers are ridiculous, and I take them apart, but the ridiculous answers they were, all that stuff's going on the court docket. Now, everybody with those Pacer accounts, all the local media, the national media, they can go look and see what the county submitted. Oh my God, look what they stated here. That's ridiculous. So now that everybody knows the county's full of crap, okay? They don't want that. So when you lay the goods on the table like that, and that pleading, and they know you could litigate it, because here's what will happen. When you submit that court case and you get the number and you do the media blitz I talked about, local people, national people, you could do that too at your case. You know, same thing. Hey, if you're paying for traffic citations, you're being ripped off. How many people do you think will read that case? Hey, if you ever got a traffic ticket, you're being ripped off. You may be getting ripped off. I would think people would read that out of curiosity because every one of us got a traffic ticket at one point or another. So now they start reading it. They start following the case. Well, they don't want that out there. They don't want people to know that, hey, what they're doing is really criminal. What they're doing, you know, they're not following the actual laws. So when you write pleadings like that and you put them in peril, you generally will get a call before they have to answer the pleading. I think federal court might be that depends. I think it's like 60 days they have to answer or something. So when you file that, you're going to get a phone call maybe week 3 or 4, and they're going to want to sit down and have a talk with you, a mediation, to find out, did you write what's in the document? Like we talked about with John's house. They want to make sure you wrote it. And when you could talk about it fluently, like when I said with the property tax people, and they said, well, what's this mean, Mr. Faggiolo? Oh, you mean Title 72, 4843.1, where it states, in order to ascertain the amount of the assessment, a return must be filed. And if a return is not filed, I will suffer a $500 fine or 6 months in jail. Is that the part you're talking about? And when you can rattle that off to them like that, they go, oh my God, we can't go into court against this guy. He's going to rip us to shreds. He knows exactly what's in that pleading, and he knows how to argue it. So now you're going to get to a settlement figure. They're going to say, hey, listen, what do we need to do to make this go away? You start talking numbers. And then when you settle on a number, they will create what's called a non-disclosure agreement, and they're going to give it to you, and they're going to say, here, you can sign this, but you can't release any of your paperwork. And we're going to see all the court documents, okay? Because we don't want anybody to see that up on Pacer. We got to see all of them documents. And that's part of your agreement and your non-disclosure agreement. But there's your freedom. You do it once. Now, it's a lot of work doing this to learn this stuff, but you do it just once. You're probably going to be left alone for the rest of your life because they're going to know you're that guy that sued them in federal district court and you cleaned their clock. They are not going to want any piece of you at that point. There's your freedom, okay? That's where you become Steve Emerson. Where the co-guy doesn't come within 3 blocks of his house. The co-guy will not come within 3 blocks of his house because every time they do, the neighbors tell him, hey, Steve, the co-guy's poking his nose around. They go and sue him, okay? And that turns into a settlement. So They tell the co-guy, stay away from that area, okay? Bottom up. That's how you get your neighborhoods back. That's how you get your town back and your county back. You're not going to do this from the top down. It's not going to work like that. And I know that hurts people's feelings because people want to bring the whole system down. There's nothing wrong with the system. God forbid they got rid of the system because you wouldn't have Steve Emerson's and Randy Kelton's and Dave Merlin's or guys like me. You wouldn't have them if we had a different system. If you don't appreciate our system, go look at my cousin living in New Zealand who's like a prisoner. He can go shopping for food. He can go to the doctors, and he's got 2 goats that he takes care of. They're his pets that he's on a farm. They're the only places he can go. He can't go to a bar. He can't go to a movie. He's like a prisoner in a way. He has limited rights. And Australia's the same way because they don't have rights like you and I have. Our rights don't come from the Constitution. They're secured by that Constitution. That's the purpose of that Constitution, to secure our rights. But they never taught us in school how to exercise those rights. And here's what's going on with that. That's like me and you being in school. It's like me giving you an F-35 jet, okay? Like it's like the top fighting jet around right now, F-35. So I give you a phenomenal jet. Here you go. Here's a jet for you. You got it in the driveway. You got this killer jet. Now somebody comes to mess with you. You don't even know how to get in the cockpit. You can't even get the bubble open to get in the cockpit. You don't know how to open it. So what good's the F-35 jet? That's your right. There's your constitutional rights right there. That's that F-35 jet. You got all these rights. Here you go. They teach you in school. You got all these rights. Here you go. And then when you need to get them, you're like, I can't even get in the cockpit. I don't know how to get in the cockpit. Let me go hire somebody and see if he can get in the cockpit for me. Maybe let me go hire this guy, the attorney. Maybe he can get in the cockpit. This is how this works, okay? So if you've got this incredible amount of information at your fingertips that you can bang him over the head with, go do it. Because here's what happens with this stuff. Dude, I hate doing paperwork. Like Steve says, and I don't want to bug him out, but he goes, listen, I'm busy. I'd rather be fond on my wife, okay? I'd rather be fond on my wife. I don't want to be doing this stuff. I don't want to be doing all this paperwork. Me too. I'm the same way. But when you do this, it actually starts to become fun at a certain point when you see how incompetent some of these people are. And when they do stupid stuff. Like when the attorney submits a pleading in this condo case saying that there were multiple dog attacks against tenants and pets. And where there's no documented case of anybody being attacked, there's no doctor bills, there's no report of a dog attack, and the main witness that they had that they said was attacked, he testifies. I can't make this stuff up. He testifies. I slipped. The dog never touched me. Okay, I rest my. Okay, so when you hand me that, I'm going to beat her over the head with this stuff, with bar grievances, state criminal complaints. So by the time we get to this hearing scheduled in 2 months, she's not going to want to see this woman again. She's going to want to make this go away real quick, because right before that happens, I'm going to have that lawsuit already written up. That hey, listen, you want your $11,000 now? We're down to $11,000. I'm going to come in for $1.5 million. What do you think? You want to come to a settlement with her now? Maybe give her some money after what you put her through and make her go away? And that's how this stuff starts to get fun. Listen, Brett, the guy I'm telling you, Randy's sidekick, Brett is working for saving a woman's house. The house is paid off. They're trying to steal this house. They don't have the original mortgage, the original note. Yet they keep moving this case. Brett has now gone through 11 attorneys. 11 attorneys got knocked off the case by bar grievances. He's now going through 2 judges. The first judge, he just got a 4-year term reinstated. He retired after year 1. Okay, first year he retired because Brett filed 2 judicial complaints against him. Why would a guy who just got a 4-year term again leave? Did the judicial complaints have anything to do with it? Maybe not, but seems awfully coincidental, doesn't it? That he just got this 4-year term. He's in year 1. And then the second judge that took over after he retired, Brett was just getting ready to file the second a new judicial complaint against him. He didn't play with this guy yet. He didn't get to play, have fun with this guy yet. He had it on his desk ready to go out. The guy recuses himself from the case. The judge takes himself off the case. He don't want to hear the case. You know why I don't want to hear the case? Because he started digging and found out, well, this guy filed. He's got 11 attorneys. He's on his 11th attorney here with bar grievances. The initial judge. Wait a minute. Why did he retire? He's supposed to be here 4 years. Oh, he filed 2 judicial complaints against him. Looks like I'm next. Yeah. I don't really need this. I got this cushy judgeship job. People kiss my rear end. Why do I want to get in the middle of this buzzsaw that's coming at me named Brett Fountain? Yeah. Why do I want to get in the buzzsaw? I'm going to recuse myself, and I'm going to go do this over here, this case. This is how you do this stuff.
It's definitely inspiring, like hearing what a lot of these individuals have done. And obviously it takes a lot of study to do it, because you mentioned multiple times that you can provide a piece of paper, but if you can't express what that piece of paper is saying, or in the legal terms, litigate it, then you're not going to have any success, period. Just flashing a piece of paper is not going to work for you. So knowing, just like G.I. Joe said, at the end of the cartoons, knowing is half the battle. So you definitely got to educate yourself, and there's really no easy way out when it comes to this. And when it comes to educating yourself, you should consider that to be one of the most valuable things that you can do for yourself.
Listen, you can use this for you, your family, your friends. Mm-hmm. You got kids, teach your kids the Jurisdictionary course. My God, imagine having a kid, like 6-7-year-old kid, who would have just get into 1st grade, 2nd grade. Now you teach him the actual law. Imagine that kid by the time he goes to college. He's dangerous.
Oh, I agree. And I'm going to I'll make sure I send you a message so you can give me a link to that Jurisdictionary course, because I definitely would like to check it out. I'm sure other people would. All All right, so let's wrap up today. I
Sure.
really appreciate your time, Alphonse. I definitely want to revisit the conversation in like 2 or 3 more weeks if you're good with that, but I'll get in touch with you. Links will be down below for everything that we talked about, including the course that you mentioned. I want to encourage people to go check out your website, join the Telegram group, because that's where you're going to get updated files for these documents, and then stay tuned for the website as there's developments being done. Once you register on the website, you'll get access to these documents, but you'll find updated versions, as Alphonse said, in his Telegram group. All this will be linked down below. Check out his YouTube channel, and if you haven't watched our first conversation, I'll have it linked down below for my channel, and it's also on his channel as well. The STF, Stranger Than Fiction, Decoding the Legal Fiction Matrix. So, Alphonse, man, I really appreciate your time again. If you can hold on 1 second, I'm just going to wrap up the video and stop recording. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time watching any of my videos and you've gotten through an hour and 48 minutes, make sure, one, you check out the first part of our conversation. Check out and explore my channel. I would encourage you to make sure you're subscribed. And as always, make sure you be the change by practicing change.